Alright, time for Sekkoth's build. Yeah, I'm on the USS Glenn because I wanted to be able to see proper ground stats for my bridge officers. And, well, other things too. But, anyways, so let's go. Now, this was a build where I had a very specific idea for my main, and the nature of how specific that idea was means that I had certain limitations I wanted to impose on my bridge officers. So it's not that I actually got creative with my bridge officer builds, it's that I avoided certain things with my bridge officer builds. Like, I avoided anything that would cause my bridge officers to get up close to enemies, because that's my job. Anyway, though, so let's go. I actually use the Voth Fury Fangs sometimes. It's a backup weapon, but in situations where it's appropriate to melee an enemy to death, they will. And usually in the process, that enemy will also get hit with mortars because that's what my bridge officers do. If I remember right, I actually did get KO'd when I was doing the elite patrol in this. I don't remember exactly. Well, okay. Using draw fire, yeah, it's kind of being an aggro. Anyways, shields, Lucari shield. It's one of the better ground shields in the game due to the high regeneration rate it has. Because seriously, 42 shield regeneration every 2 seconds. That's 21 per second, much faster than most shields regen. Also, the whole protomatter coalescence thing. This is that effect that will create what looks like a frost patch on the ground that's very like a thin layer of white powder covering the ground. There's no like snow particle effect associated with it. It just creates a white film on the ground. That's what that white film is, the protomatter coalescence, which is something that is a good emergency heal. Now, if you're up against enemies that use Tetrian, this is amazing because of the fact that it has so much Tetrian resistance. Problem, you can't remove the Tetrian resistance, replace it with something general. Doesn't happen. Kind of a pity. Very, very good shield. So, armor, I am actually using the Undine Bio-Tech armor. Why? Because it's tough. Seriously, that health regen stat is quite good. Makes so my current health regen is 375. And it's got good resistance ratings. And of course, the whole like negates damage once every 20 seconds thing. Sometimes you'll get lucky and that'll be a big hit. It's like you kill the little guys while the big guy is charging up charged attack. Well, maybe this will take the charged attack if you're lucky. Yeah, it doesn't care how big the damage is. When that effect is primed, the next hit expends it. Doesn't matter how big or small. Which again, death by 1,000 cuts is kind of a problem with this armor. Enemies that focus on big hits, not so dangerous to you. Unless it's, hard enough that it actually just squishes you. Anyways, the kit is nothing special. One of the old kits. It's not bad, just old, Hey, perf times 2, kind of worth it. You could upgrade it to gold and force it to get a 3rd K perf, but whatever. Also, let's see if we regenerate. Oh wait, that's right, you can't re-engineer. Anyway, so the actual build this character uses. We have Much Time Device, Ever Watchful, Motivation, Rally Cry, Draw Fire, and Covert Assault Run. Yeah, the basic plan here is activate a crap ton of buffs and shoot everything. I don't have any damage abilities that aren't based on me shooting enemies or stabbing them in the case of the period objects. Skills. Specs that I am using on ground. Let's see here. I have Commando, which is actually 2/3 filled out. Temporal Operations, which I have a lot of stuff in. Not all of it, but most of it. The ground side, to be specific, is completely filled out. The space side, it doesn't have everything, just most of it. Great. Okay, this is one of those where I got funky with it. See, acute senses, creative, field technician, limited telepathy, those are all generally useful things. Peak health, sure. Again, penetrating rounds, strike team specialist. Oh, this is a very good one for my build because of the fact that most, if I'm either activating buffs or I'm using weapon attacks. So, strike team specialist is going to be running constantly. And since I'm taunting enemies to attack me, super saturated Katra stones will trigger quite a lot. Technophile. I'm buffing myself, but Technophile makes the buff stronger. And in the case of the Covert Assault Drone, it directly increases the amount of damage the Covert Assault Drone does. And Tenevic's Council. I am using an anti-proton weapon for this build, so Tenevic's Council works quite well. And yeah, these, the usual ones I use. There's actually not a whole lot of the ground reputation things that are generally useful. Certain ones are good in certain specific circumstances, but the run faster ones and the emergency cloaking one are some of the best. Now, emergency cloaking in this build, when you're using draw fire, isn't necessarily actually going to save you, because you can still take damage. It's just you will lose target lock. And of course, bonus shield regeneration, because it helps. Seriously though, this is actually better shield regeneration than a regen mod on your most shields will be. Hey, I have some junk shields. Do I have one of those with shield regeneration? Actually, no. Can I see in here what the regen? No, it's not going to show me. I would have to re-engineer something that's junk that I don't want. They actually see the tooltip, the PB damage, rev. Actually, you know what? One of my British officers probably has one. Nope. 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 Okay, yeah. Regen 7.3 shield capacity every 2 seconds. So, the Lucari shield has this times 6. And the Borg ground reputation trait is this times 2. That's pretty significant. Anyway, though, so the overall thing here is I have several things that increase weapon damage and several things that improve my durability, because I'm expecting to get shot repeatedly. And speaking of expecting to get shot, I have a kind of duty officer setup for this one. Technically, I have 8 duty officers that affect ground. Yeah, see this shield distribution officer? Some of these are bugged, so they get slotted into space instead of ground. Yeah, that actually works quite well. You don't need to worry about whether a duty officer is tagged as space or ground. That has no effect on how it works. And anyway, energy weapons officer. When draw fire is active, chance to heal self when hit. Yeah, these are actually quite effective. And even if it's only a 20% chance, it's 20% chance per hit. I think it is. It's either 20% chance when hit or 20% chance per activation of draw fire. Dang it. You know what? Those are actually kind of important differences. Anyways. Still, though, you get the idea. Basic security escort thing because, why not? When you're playing a tactical captain, security escort is useful. Even if all they do is distract the enemies. Then again, given the fact that I'm using draw fire in this build, yeah, they're not really going to distract enemies that much. Anyway, though, so, adds electrical damage to weapons malfunction and gives your weapons malfunction chance to chain to nearby enemies. Those are kind of important because these I don't need to manually trigger weapons malfunction to make things work. Having this create weapons malfunction also triggers that. Which, yeah, that's painful to the enemies. Anyways, that was a rather long explanation of how the captain setup works. Now, you may have noticed that I actually set up my entire crew using the Undine Bio-Tech and came up with a rather elaborate color scheme. I'm not going to explain that. I'll just link the schematic I put together in the video description. So, this is a embassy Romulan who has a weird trait setup. Superior Stasis Specialist. Stubborn and creativity. Those are actually kind of useful on ground when you have someone who you're expecting to spam damaging hits. The trick here is figuring out how to trigger Stasis Specialist. The easiest default ability is Electric Gravitic Field. However, Temporal Operative also has a bunch of stuff in it. I just didn't make her a Temporal Operative for some reason or other. Probably because I actually don't remember how long I've had this bridge officer. I may have had her since before Temporal Operative was added. Not sure about that. Thing is, a lot of the cool control themed abilities don't actually trigger Stasis Specialist because repels and disables are not holds or stuns. They're different. And this is actually just a damaging ability. It's kind of like a variation of a hyperonic radiation, honestly. Makes your opponent take more damage, makes them take damage directly, and, whatever. And I gave her a medical tricorder because I give that to most of my science offs on ground. They just do a good job of using it. Anyways, the other three bridge officers. Here we have the pre-order Borg bridge officer, using the command variation that I like best for the standard ground engineering setup. Defensive buff and offensive buff. Simple. Bridge officers love to spam these abilities, so they're reasonably effective. This guy, because of the fact that I'm using weapons malfunction enhancing duty officers, I decided to actually give him weapons malfunction, which I don't normally give to bridge officers because they tend to waste it. However, since I have the things to enhance the weapons malfunction, I decided, yeah, you know what, I'll play. This apparently does not get updated to reflect duty officers. So let's take a look at his actual yeah, that's not showing either. Does it actually work? I think so. I'm genuinely not 100% sure. Have to, watch it in combat and see. Anyways, his traits, pretty typical for humans. Teamwork, stubborn, covert, leadership, blah blah. And of course, he's a temporal operative, so I decided to give him chronometric infusion. This is an example of one of those abilities for temporal operative that would actually work with the Stasis Specialist ability. It's just that I gave him temporal operative and not her. I don't know why. Might have actually had something to do with ship seating. Anyways, and the last one, Juvista. This is actually the veteran android, which I gave the Delta Alliance set. Oh yeah, long. This is kind of sort of just like random classes. I made a TR-116B so that I could shoot Borg with it, then decided that, oh, well, if I'm not using that myself, I might as well let a bridge officer have it. Yeah, I actually used to use the counter command shield on my captain. Then I switched to the Lucari shield and gave him the counter command shield. To be honest, this is actually a useful shield. It's not amazing, but it's useful. And the 4-piece, see, the problem with this particular set is that it's rather specific to anti-Undine. And also, one of its things enhances the rep set weapon, which if you're not using the rep set weapon, why bother? Anyways, though, like seriously, when receiving toxic damage, wait, what? Yeah, the 4-piece set bonus is solely for anti-toxic damage. There are more than just Undine that do toxic damage. It's just not something that's enough of a threat directly that I would actually care about toxic damage resistance. Even when it's the Undine. When it's the Undine, it's like a proc that's added to their melee attacks. It's not like enough raw damage to actually worry about it. Now, this here, the 2-piece set bonus is actually something that you could use reasonably easily. The 3-piece and the 4-piece, not so much. Also, the 3-piece is technically a clicky power, so when you activate it, it will refill your shields. The thing is, it has a 3-minute recharge, so you're not going to get to use it very often. Also, the whole radiation damage pulse, that's not actually a particularly hefty amount of radiation damage. It has a dot, but the dot is less than 200 radiation damage. And the total damage on it is somewhere around 300. Not great for a 3-minute clicky power. Anyway, though, but the 2-piece stuff, it's somewhat useful. Anyway, though, moving on. Like I said, he's using the temporal variant with Weapons Malfunction, even though I don't normally use Weapons Malfunction. Juvista has the Delta Alliance stuff, and a temporal operative variation of the normal engineer ground setup I do. Yeah, throw regenerative nanite canister. This is the same logic as medical tricorder. It's just that it has a smaller, or it's not going to get used as often. It does, however, have a splash effect, so that kind of makes up for that. And also, as far as I can tell, regenerative nanite canisters actually do heal pets and turrets, so there's also that to go with this. But yeah, interesting. Like I said at the beginning, the build I put together for this captain is rather unusual. So the stuff for the bridge officers is meant to enhance that. And yeah, this is, it kind of helps. I don't remember why SP even picked this set, but whatever. Alrighty then. See you guys later.